Chapter 5.
The sight of a child's smiling face felt like something from another life. It was incredible. And yet, since waking on Cocoon, she'd seen so many children. In the shopping malls in Bodum, in Uraday. Fang realized it must have been her who had changed. Or maybe it was better to say that she had changed back to the way she had used to be. How she used to be when she watched the children laughing and playing in Erba.
Kids all make the same face when you laugh. Kids from Cocoon, kids from Erba. It's amazing.
Of course they do, silly. Kids are kids. It doesn't matter where they're from.
I guess so.
She just couldn't stop staring at Dajh, who after everything he had been through, was just a normal child again. He was no longer a sanctum Lassie. When she had seen his hand free of his brand at last, the relief had been incredible. When Sazh told her that what happened to Dajh wasn't her fault, and that the incident at Uraday Gorge occurred because he hadn't been looking after his son carefully enough, those words had helped her so much. They had helped lift the burden which had weighed her down for so long. Of course, she still blamed herself. She had still mixed an innocent child up in all of this. The voice inside her still haunted her, still said that even though the child had been from Cocoon, an enemy of Pulse, it didn't make it any more forgivable. The only thing that could silence that voice was not Sazh's words of forgiveness, but to be forgiven by Dajh himself. Or so she thought. In the end, it turned out to be something else entirely. It was something no words could do. It was just that look in his face. Fang's attention turned to the other person to whom she owed an apology. Serah stood beside Snow.
Where they were square. That's up to Serah.
Lightning had said so when they were hiding out in Palimpolim.
Will she forgive us for what we did?
Don't worry. She's got a good heart. And she's tough. She will.
Really? Then I guess our work here is done. Cocoon falling down like that fulfilled our stupid focus, and all the Lassie are back to being human again.
But their work wasn't completely finished yet. They still had to support the weight of Cocoon. To Fang, though, this could hardly be called work. If all she had to do was give herself up to this so-called sleep, she'd be happy for a long while yet. Vanille was by her side, and they didn't have to worry about becoming Seath every minute of the day. The two of them could just relax here as long as they wanted.
This isn't work. This is a vacation.
She sensed someone smiling.
Who is that?
Fang turned as Vanille cried out in surprise. They'd felt this before, a long time ago. It was somewhere there, deep down in both their memories. Vanille murmured the name of the goddess. That was it. Vanille remembered. She remembered whose smile they were sensing.
Of course. Now everything makes sense. Guess we know where all those miracles came from.
She felt as though she had started to unravel a particularly complicated knot. Although she couldn't remember everything, she knew that the mists were finally clearing. Fang looked at her companions again, taking each of them in. Sazh would be busy bringing up Dajh. Hope still had a lot of growing up to do. The problem was Snow and Lightning.
Don't even think of trying to help us or bring us back, or whatever stupid plan you might come up with. Don't you dare. You worry about yourselves, you hear me?
What are you gonna do? You know what they're like.
Fang sighed, and a wry smile crept across her face.
Chapter 6.
The image of Fang crying out to leave her and Vanille behind suddenly flashed into Lightning's mind, and she shrugged her shoulders as if to rid herself of the memory.
But you know we can't just leave you, right?
They spent enough time together to be able to know what the other would think and say. It was only natural for a comradeship forged in battle.
I'm sure the others want to bring Vanille and Fang back too. But there's no way humans can bring back fal'cie who've been turned to crystal. And besides, none of us wants to destroy the one thing that stands between Cocoon and its total obliteration.
Returning the crystal column that supported Cocoon to its original form and freeing their friends, or finding a way of removing the column while preventing Cocoon from falling. Neither of these was possible with the means currently available to them, especially now that they were human again. But she would go out there and find a way. There must be a way to do it hidden somewhere in Grand Pulse, or something written about how to do it at least. They had roamed these lands once before in search of a way to rid themselves of their brands, and had returned to Cocoon unsuccessful. But it wasn't like they had searched everywhere. There were plenty of places they'd never been. If they went and searched those places, they might find an answer. But they weren't fal'cie anymore. Traversing the monster-infested lands of Grand Pulse would be far from easy. It would be a long and difficult journey, and she couldn't ask Snow to go with her. He had a much more important job to do, making Serah happy. Her eyes came to rest on the two of them, walking side by side. Not so long ago, it had been her job to look after Serah. Lightning thought back to the days when she and her sister walked together hand in hand, but the time had come to pass on that responsibility. In fact, Snow had probably taken it on way before she had even realized. At first, she thought he was all talk, but at some point, his words actually started to get through to her. They'd given her strength to keep going. She realized that he had really meant them, and that was what gave them the power to drive others on. She knew now that Snow was capable. She trusted him. She knew he had the strength and the will to survive down here in the unforgivable vastness of Grand Pulse.
I hope he makes you happy, Serah.
Lightning whispered to herself and smiled. She felt the satisfaction of having successfully seen through one of her greatest responsibilities, but it was a satisfaction tinged with sadness. Not an unpleasant sadness, but a sadness nonetheless. Sazh was walking toward the airship dock with the cavalryman. Dajh turned toward her and waved. Such a nice kid. She waved back, and he laughed happily.
Sazh's job is to look after Dajh now. There's no substitute for parents. I lost both of mine, so I should know. They need to spend as much time as they can being father and son again. And even if that wasn't the case, he's a pilot. He won't have time for anything else now. Airships are going to be even more in demand down here on Grand Pulse than they were on Cocoon. They'll need his talents more than ever. It's not impossible, but I doubt he'd jump at the chance to head out looking for a way to free Fang and Vanille right now. Hope's out too. Back when he had Alexander to help him, it was another story. But without his fal'cie powers, he's just a kid. He might not be able to get back to studying just yet, but when things calm down, hopefully there'll be some kind of school for him to go to. Studying, having friends, being young. That's the life for him right now. He's not like me. I had to grow up so fast so I could look after Serah. But he needs to make the most of what little childhood he has left. He needs to enjoy himself. He needs to forget the pain of losing his mother. So I guess that just leaves me. Sorry, you two, but it looks like I'm all you've got. Of course, I knew it wouldn't be over once we'd saved Serah. Yeah, it was all I could think about at first. All I cared about was getting her back. Maybe it was the first time I came down to Grand Pulse and looked back up at Cocoon. It was the first time I'd seen the place where I was born, where I grew up, from the outside. What had seemed like the whole world to me looked like it could fit in the palm of my hand. Compared to the vastness of the sky, Cocoon was so little. But it was also home to thousands of people, thousands of lives, and thousands of stories. I'll never forget that feeling as long as I live. I was freaked out. Well, not to the point of losing it, but I think that something changed in me that day. My goal had always been to rescue Serah, and for all of us to get through this together. But now, I didn't just mean all of us FFXIII. I meant all of us, everyone on Cocoon. I started thinking about a future for everybody, and I'm still thinking about it now. But now it's gone beyond even the people of Cocoon. Now I'm thinking about Fang and Vanille, and all of the people who might still be alive down here on Grand Pulse. I want to make every single person out there safe. That's why my journey still isn't over. And it's why I need to head out right now. I don't quite understand it yet. It's just a feeling, but...
And before she knew it, she had started walking.
Why? What is it that's driving me on? What is this feeling? Chapter 7.
Although she knew, although she understood, when she saw it with her own eyes, she was still taken back. Could this really be happening? But it had. It was real. And that meant she could do something about it. She had to. She couldn't just look on, helpless. She had to change things. And when she realized this, she was filled with courage. Serah lifted her head and took in the full spectacle of the fallen cocoon and the column of crystal which cradled it.
What can you see now, Vanille? What are you dreaming of? Can you see me right now, just like the others can? I don't remember much from right around the time I was turned to crystal, but parts after that, what happened at Lake Brescia and later on, that I remember. I was with Snow the whole time, maybe only in a dreamlike, misty kind of way, but I was there. I know he kept my crystal tear with him the whole time. That's why I could hear him, even after I was turned to crystal. That's why I could see the same things he saw. It seems as if different people dream different things when they're turned to crystal. That little boy, Dajh, he said he spent the whole time dreaming of playing with chocobos. Maybe his little chocobo friend sent them to him. Or maybe his father, Sazh was it, was praying for him to have sweet dreams.
Serah was sure that it must be the reason. She had been able to be there with Snow because he had prayed so hard for it to happen. And she had wanted it so badly too. She couldn't know for certain, of course, but it was what she wanted to believe. Being with Snow in her dreams had kept her going. If she had been alone in that cold sleep, her heart might have broken before she ever awoke, which was why she hoped that Vanille was having nice dreams too. Serah prayed that Vanille could be with them, even if it was only in spirit.
They've given me something pretty big to fly. We'd better be taking off.
Sazh's voice brought her back to her senses. Dajh was smiling and waving at her.
See you later.
See you, Dajh. Have fun.
The boy's smiling face was the first thing she saw when she awoke, and his carefree, innocent words were the first thing she heard. She had taken his little hand in hers and walked out into the huge expanse of Grand Pulse. It had been the first step on their journey back to reality. She smiled at him gratefully.
Hurry up.
The soldier called out to Sazh.
Wow, Dad, they must really need us. Come on, let's go.
Father and son hurried off after the cavalryman.
And they're gone.
Hope was standing beside her. Another soldier rushed in to take the place of the first.
We know where your father is. He's on the next flight in. A cargo transport.
My dad? Are you sure?
Yes. He'll be here in a few minutes.
Not many people would be aware that his father, Bartholomew Westheim, had been branded the father of the FFXIII, but that didn't mean that no one would. That must be why he had chosen to travel aboard a cargo ship.
If you're discreet, you can go and meet him when the ship lands.
Thank you.
Don't thank me. Just be quick. He'll need to use the bustle of the landing to make his escape.
And with that, Hope disappeared, hurried along by the soldier. There was no time to say goodbye. A meeting of eyes, the briefest nod, and he was gone.
Seems like everyone's leaving all of a sudden.
There was a trace of sadness in Snow's voice. He had never liked parties.
Well, saying goodbye may be sad, but just think. They're all going back to their families.
Yeah, that's true, I guess. Lucky them.
They may have all gone their separate ways, but it didn't make them any less close. No matter where they ended up, they would always be right there beside each other, just like Fang and Vanille, up there in their crystal.
I'm happy for everyone and all, but this isn't over yet.
This parting was just the start of another journey. The end of one road was the beginning of another. Separate roads for all of them. And some of them would be lucky enough to travel these new roads together.
I have to do something. Snow? Do you think I'd make a good teacher?
What, like a school teacher?
Yeah, we don't have schools yet, or even homes. But there are so many kids here. They'll need schools and teachers, right?
She had been wondering the whole time what it was she could do. And then the answer had come to her. She would replace the schools and nurseries they had lost.
I want to teach them about the world. Tell them the things they have to know. Like why Cocoon fell, and what happened to us.
They had lived without thinking of the sacrifice of the people given up to the fal'cie. They had dwelt in blissful ignorance in a paradise built on lies. That had been their biggest mistake. Serah wanted the children who grew up on Grand Pulse to be able to think for themselves and stand on their own 2 feet. She wanted them to grow into responsible, free-thinking adults.
In 10 or 20 years' time, these kids will all be adults. We need to give them the tools to help us build our new home. If it's just us, we can build a small village if we're lucky, but with all of their help, we can make ourselves a city.
A school teacher, huh? Yeah, suits you.
Snow nodded his assent.
So you're gonna train them up to help us out in the future, huh?
And among the children Serah trained would be some who wanted to become teachers themselves. And those children would teach new children, and so on, far into the future.
Alright then. I'm gonna build you the biggest school you've ever seen.
He stretched his arms as wide as they would go.
Yeah! A big school and lots of houses. A bona fide city.
If people believe strongly enough, dreams can become a reality. Right now, the landscape that stretched out before them was empty, but Serah could already see the city spreading out in front of her. It might be a long way in the future, long after they had passed away, but one day, this place would be a paradise too. Not a false paradise accepted unquestioningly, but a real one, built with their own hands.
Right, sis?
Serah turned, looking for his sister's approval, and at the same time, she felt a twinge of discomfort. It was like something warm that had been surrounding her had fallen away. It was a strange feeling, and one she hadn't experienced before. But it only lasted a moment, and before she could put her finger on it, it was gone.
Sis?
Lightning wasn't there, but she'd been there moments ago, hadn't she? Serah felt an ominous premonition. No, not a premonition, a sensation.
Huh?
She turned again, and her eyes widened.
Why?
The crystal column suddenly seemed further away, even though she had been walking toward it. Maybe this horrible feeling was just a side effect of only recently having woken up from her sleep.
Sis? Where are you?
She realized her voice was trembling. Instinctively, she covered her face with her hands, hoping to compose herself. But something unexpected greeted her touch. It was a tear.
Chapter 8.
A vast dark ocean stretched out from horizon to horizon, or at least something like an ocean. Deep black waves rolled in and out, but no seabirds cried, and she could not smell the sharp tang of salt It was a deep, thick darkness, seething in the depths of the night. This was nothing like the sea she knew. And there was not only the sea. This place was different from any other she had known. She could feel a monstrous presence, but had caught no glimpse of animals or plants. There wasn't a trace of life here. There was no sound, and no colour. She didn't know whether it was because it was quiet and dark, or because her senses had failed her. Her sense of time had grown fuzzy. She felt as if an incomprehensibly long time had passed, but it might equally have been an instant. She felt eternity in a heartbeat.
So that's why.
At some point, she had stopped resisting and had started to accept this place. She realized it was not a place the human body could resist. It was a place that everything and nothing existed. If words could describe it, they would be words like emptiness and chaos. But she kept walking. She knew that there was something she had to find.
Where am I going? Where am I trying to get to?
No answer. An infinite, yet momentary silence greedily swallowed her voice.